Well, growing your own plants from cuttings couldn't be easier. It really, really is very simple. I'm going to show you the mix that I use for putting my cuttings in first. Get this prepared before you actually have your cuttings ready. It makes life so much easier. What I'm just using is one of these nice round pots, nothing fancy. Again, multi-purpose compost, and I'm just going to mix in vermiculite. Really what I'm doing is actually just colouring the vermiculite with compost. So there we go, so I filled the pot almost to the brim, like that, firmed it down a little bit, and now we're ready for the cuttings. This is Penstemon Garnet. It goes under quite a few names, but I grow it as Garnet. You see gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous flowers on it. Now, Penstemons are hardy to a certain extent. Up here I tend to consider them as half hardy. They have survived in the garden for a number of winters, but if we get a really cold winter this year, that would be the end of this plant. So what I'm doing now, again, is more insurance. I'm taking cuttings to give myself some new plants for next year, but also these will be kept in more of the polytunnels, protected from the worst of the winter weather. So if we do have really cold winter weather and I lose this plant, at least I've still got some young ones growing on. Couldn't be simpler. This is a nice plant. Obviously got the flowering stems here, which I'm going to leave on, but we've got some really nice growth here. I'm going to make a cut just above a pair of leaves right down at the base of the stem there, using a very sharp pair of secateurs as well, which is important at this stage but becomes even more important as we go on to actually prepare the cuttings themselves. So I'll probably take off about half a dozen stems off this plant. Now this is the piece I've taken off the plant. Now it's far too large to use all of this as a cutting. I want to make it really fairly short. So what I'm going to do is actually make a cut just below a pair of leaves. And this is where the new roots on the plant will develop. Strip away these lower leaves. So if these are pushed into the compost, they'll just start to rot off and then you'll lose the whole cutting. Then maybe take the next pair of leaves off as well, because again this is going to get pushed below the level of the compost. Once you get up to the top though, all you need to do is reduce the length of these leaves by about half, like that, and that will reduce the water loss from your cutting, because at this stage obviously it hasn't got any roots, it hasn't really got any way of drawing up moisture into itself, but that is a perfect little cutting. Pop that into some hormone rooting. This time of year, in the spring I don't tend to bother, but this time of year it does help them a little bit. And then just going to make a hole in there with a pencil, pop the cutting in and just firm it in nicely like that. And I'll keep working around the pot, filling that in with these cuttings now. So that's the pot of cuttings now. Importantly, I have put a label in so I know which variety it is. I'm going to take these outside now to the polytunnel where I'll give them a really good soak, and I'm going to put them into one of my propagation boxes. They don't get any bottom heat at this stage, they don't need it, but it's just a nice sheltered environment with relatively high humidity, which will just help them get rooted and established and growing on strongly.